Okay, you're all set.
Thank you. All right, so I'm calling the select board meeting to order on October 26, 2022. It's a fully Zoom meeting. Everyone is here. Okay, so before we get started, I just wanted to say a couple of good things. I thought we had a really good weekend. I thought the pinning ceremony for Chief Newell was wonderful, put together wonderfully, and just was heartwarming from beginning to end. So good way to start the week. I heard through the grapevine that the trunk or treat event was fabulous, and that one of the stars was our town administrator. So thank him for helping out on Saturdays. Sounds like he was very popular. Okay, so tonight's pretty short meeting. We got two main things, and then we go into executive session to deal with some executive session minutes. So we're going to focus on the process to replace Karen Galligan as DPW superintendent, and then we're going to talk about the process to make sure the public continues to be informed as far as the status of the process to determine whether we are going to be able to, are going to approve the connection of Hopkinton indirectly through our water system. All right, so fairly short meeting, I think. All right, so let's start out with our first topic.
Kathy, can I jump in quick here before you start?
I'm going to say it, Lisa. I know.
Okay.
I'm going to do it. And if you want to add to it, go right ahead. But
okay.
That's what I'm saying first. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
So, not trying to steal your thunder here, but let me do it. Then you can add to it. Ms. Braccio has informed me that she will not participate tonight in any discussion regarding the process to replace Ms. Galligan. Ms. Braccio's husband is currently an independent contractor with the DPW as a snow plow operator. Ms. Braccio is waiting for confirmation from the Ethics Office of the Mass Attorney General as to her ability to participate in this process, and will keep us posted when she's received their opinion. Anything else you want to add, Lisa, to that?
Nope, that's perfect. And I'm going to go off screen now. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So the main focus tonight is agreeing on the process to replace Ms. Galligan as DPW superintendent. As we know, Ms. Galligan informed the select board of her intent to resign effective January 6, 2023 at our last meeting on 10/18. She has a requirement in her contract to give us 60 days notice of a voluntary resignation. She has since submitted her formal letter of resignation to Mr. Purple, which we've all seen. The select board will have more to say about Ms. Galligan's long tenure at a more appropriate time and place. So Vanessa Hale has drafted a proposed process for replacing Ms. Galligan, which each of us has. I think we all will agree that we want to do this effectively and timely, as there are many, many ongoing DPW projects on top of their day-to-day work, and winter is not too far off, unfortunately. Tonight, we will review Ms. Hill's proposed plan with the goal of leaving here tonight with the plan agreed on. We will also review Ms. Hill's proposed job description, also with the plan of having that approved tonight. What we won't do tonight is discuss the steps that need to be taken to ensure a smooth transition. Mr. Purple is working on a plan, and he will update us as appropriate. So far, so good? You agree, Mr. Purple?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so we've got the proposal from Vanessa as the first page of our packet. So let's just start the discussion there as far as seeing if we can agree upon the process to go forward tonight as far as Karen's replacement. So I'm just going to look at people in order of what I see on the screen. So Chelsea, I'm going to start with you.
Thank you, Kathy. I didn't have any feedback on the first page.
Okay, so let's stick on that, then we'll come back to the job description. Okay, so
okay.
Parts. All right, so you're okay with the first page as far as outlining the proposed process?
I am, yep.
Okay, Andrew?
Yeah, I also just had some suggested edits to the job description, but just to clarify that under what Vanessa is proposing here, you have an interview panel that does not consist of the select board, that does kind of the initial, for lack of a better term, screening, interviews, and review of the resumes to select X number of finalists for the final review by the select board. Select board conducts the interviews in a public session?
Yes.
Okay. How many finalists? Is there a target for number of finalists you would have, or what is typical?
I
Quality.
mean, I'm sorry, and I would normally give you 2 to 3, unless there was and that number would vary depending on what I've got for quality. If you've got, I like to at least give you 2, so you have a matter of comparison. Even if one is really strong and one is not as strong, but at least 2 for comparison, but usually not more than 3, unless the board wants to decide differently.
So the first process is you advertise the position so that the applications start coming in, and but do we need to determine the exact people who would be on the interview panel tonight, or that can be determined at a...
No, I'm
Well,
hoping
we're kind of leaving that to Mark, Andrew. That's important. We're leaving that to Mark to choose that panel. We're not suggesting or telling him who to be on it. He's got some ideas, which I think he could probably share with us tonight as far as the type of person to be on it, but we're not dictating who's on that panel unless that's what we want to do.
Okay. And like, this is kind of a somewhat similar for the police chief search, right? I think Mark followed a similar process on, was it determining like the structure of the assessment center? There was something you did in the...
Yeah, I mean, so this is well, I say this tongue in cheek. It's the same process as police chief minus the assessment center minus the consultant. So, the one thing I think you're referring to is when we structured the assessment center and we chose the consultant, we did bring in a couple of residents who have public safety experience, and they helped to craft some of the exercises and everything within the assessment center, which in those conversations I think were beneficial.
So the part of it, a couple other follow-up questions. I mean, one point of comparison I think of is, and then maybe Sam would be familiar with this, is like for the fire chief position several years ago. Mm-hmm. There was a whole different committee that was formed to conduct interviews. But I think here, unfortunately, we're really more in the position of similar to the police chief, where, I mean, one thing which is pretty striking is, the deadline to submit applications was November 18th. And I think you have to have a relatively tight deadline like that to get someone approved in the position by January 6th, and winter's coming. So that's the reason why I think you're recommending the interview panel approach rather than form another committee, which would have even more people. And
well, if the board wanted to form another committee, you'd make that decision tonight. We'd put together a charge. We would, we would then advertise that. You'd have another meeting. I don't think we'd have everything back for you by the 1st. So you'd either have to have a special meeting between the 1st and the 15th, and then you would appoint the committee, and then the committee would go and take a look at the job description, and they take a look at the ad, and hopefully by the end, just before Thanksgiving, maybe we get the ad out on the street. We're not interviewing until the middle of December. Keep in mind that people's focus between Thanksgiving and New Year's is tough. And I know that, in municipal, people looking for jobs, it's hit and miss, during the holiday season. So, that's going to be interesting. Plus, you've also got a notice period. If we get somebody who's in another municipality or even in a private sector, there's going to be a notice period. So getting somebody in here for January 6th is going to be tough sledding, regardless of how we do this.
Okay. I'm comfortable with that approach. I just wanted to talk it through.
Sure.
It's really a lot driven by, it's not a, like a department head that's given, okay, I'm going to give you 6 months notice or we've got a full year notice so that we have the luxury of having a
Right.
more extensive process. And in terms of the recruitment process, I mean, do you have any thoughts about just kind of spreading the word that that this position is out there and encouraging anyone who thinks they may know of a really good candidate to? Should we be doing that as well?
Right. Yeah. So we do that. I mean, Vanessa didn't put in her memo word of mouth. I do know that if you approve the job description, she's going to make sure, the job posting, she's going to have copies of this with her at her municipal HR meeting on Friday. She'll be handing this out to people. And so, yes, we're going to do outreach, and we're going to find, we're going to see if there's interest. I think it's an attractive position, and I think if, maybe we may not find, a number one who wants to come to another community as a number one, maybe we find a really good number two that wants to come and step up, but again, we do, I've been doing this a long time. Vanessa's been doing it a long time, and, we're going to put our feelers out, through our networks, just to see if there are people who, may be interested in either taking that next step or moving to another community. And again, I think the position is very attractive in terms of, the responsibilities. I think the opportunities, are attractive. So again, it's more of a holistic approach and then simply just money. I think the community, I think the position, and I think the team, helps to sell it.
Okay, thank you. That's all for me.
Sam?
Yeah, I guess I'm the odd person out here in the sense that I can think of one person that would be very interesting to talk to. I'm not prepared to name that person, that some of us know actually as a possibility. I also am not a fan generally of the broad posting of here's the position, because my sense of that is that you get people who are unemployed or just got fired from someplace else frequently who are looking for a job. And I think my experience has been the best people are the ones who are actually doing a great job somewhere and can be convinced to make a move. And I think of somebody like Bernie Lynch, for example, as a recruiter, who I think of as being very tied into town administrators, town managers in the state. And I'm guessing that he probably knows a lot of town DPW folks in the state as well. But if there's, if that's something that Bernie is connected well with, or there's somebody else like that, I think you're much better off with somebody who knows the landscape and knows the people out there and says, this particular person has been in this job for 10 years and probably looking for a change. So I think I'll go talk with them and basically shake somebody loose from a good job that they're doing a good job with elsewhere. I would comment that that's actually the way we found our fire chief. We advertised, but he was actually recruited by an individual who will remain nameless for the moment, to leave Portsmouth and come here. So I think that, I'm much more a fan of a very targeted approach if we could figure out a way to do that. And then that's not inconsistent with advertising widely, but you advertise and then say anybody who's interested, talk with our recruiter, whoever that may be, to do some of that initial filtering and get what I think of as a much higher quality initial list for us to look at. So, and recruiters are not inexpensive. I don't know what they would charge for something like this, but I'd be willing to pay, some reasonable amount of money to actually shorten the search and get a higher quality candidate pool than just sort of a general come one, come all approach. So I guess that's sort of my take. I've got some comments about the job posting, but I am far less concerned about that one. I think it's, good enough with some tweaking, and that's not going to make a huge difference in terms of the candidates we get, frankly. So that's.
I'm not opposed. If we want to bring Paradigm in, if you want me to get a quote from Paradigm and have them do it, it takes a lot of those pieces off of my plate. I do agree that, someone like Paradigm, there are some companies, there are some recruiters out there that simply put an ad out and they let the ad speak for themselves. And Paradigm, I think, is one of those companies that does the advertising, but they make the phone calls, they do the word of mouth, you know, and they do that personal outreach, which I think is helpful. So if we want to go that route, and then let the recruiter, you know, they will take care of the ad. They will, you know, they'll do all those pieces. I'm not sure what they'll charge for it, but I could probably get a quote pretty quick.
And Mark, I would actually not describe it as Paradigm. I think it's Bernie. I've been unimpressed with others I've seen from Paradigm, and I've been impressed with the results that I've seen Bernie get in some cases. So it's not one that I would sort of throw over the transom and say, hey guys, you know, take it and run with it versus, and I also would qualify that if Bernie says, you know, I'm not as well connected to the public works folks, then I'm less focused on Paradigm, but I got to believe there are people out there who know that territory very well. So, well,
I only say Paradigm because that's Bernie's company.
Right, I understand, so, but they got a lot of people.
So, you know, and we can basically request, I want the quote and I want Bernie Lynch to do it.
Or if Bernie says this is, you know, our person who really is plugged in there, that's fine. But I think we should talk to that person.
So does their fee work? Is there like a get paid on X percentage of the first year's salary, or so that's not?
Well, that's how most recruiters work right now.
Right,
They're
but
not private sector, but municipal. How someone like
if he's gonna come in and do a search process, he's gonna give us a lump sum to come in and do this list of things, and normally that takes you right up. It can take you right up through contract negotiation. So it depends on how far you want to go.
When you go to the final, let's say you go to the final interview stage, you got two people that were part of the final interview stage that they applied directly, and one person who was recruited for whom you would owe a fee. When is that one of the things you deliberate about, or
you talk with the recruiter about it before you go through it and say what happens in this case? Yeah.
Will we even know, or?
Probably. I've done these things where you actually pay them something if their candidate isn't selected.
Okay.
It depends on the deal that you strike.
But what you're talking about is something that can go in parallel with at least beginning the initial process of getting this ad up and starting to get word of mouth. Right? Potentially,
yeah. But you'd like to have the ad, you know, respondents should, you know, respond to XYZ recruiter as opposed to the town, in theory.
Well, I think the board's got to decide. I mean, it does not make sense for me to run a process and then to pay a recruiter to try to bring people into the process. If you're going to either you decide that you want Vanessa and I to put the process and get everything moving and move in that direction, or you want to bring in, you know, a search firm like Paradigm, you know, to do this. I'm fine either way. My feelings aren't hurt either way. I just think the board needs to decide this, and it's going to take a little bit of time. You know, we're probably pushing the meeting now into next week in order for you to make a decision before I've got the information for you to do that.
Okay, let me go. So let me start off with, I think the process that's been outlined here is a hybrid of what we did for red and blue chiefs. If you remember with red chief, there was a 3-person appointed committee of Sam, Janet Maney, who had a long storied HR background, and Jason Malinowski, who had all kinds of attributes that were relevant, including being a fireman. And Sam with his long management consulting and business background. So that's what we did there. And that was a total outside process from the very get-go. We knew we were going to hire someone outside the fire department. This time, we believe that's the case. It doesn't mean that we're closing this to inside, but we do believe that there is going to be a candidate picked from the outside. So that's more similar to the fire chief one. You know, police chief was totally internal. So I think a lot different than what we're talking about. As far as what Sam brought up, as far as using someone like a Paradigm, so Andrew and Sam, I don't know what you guys are seeing in your business right now, but recruiting is a lot different today than it used to be, at least in the private sector. So we tend here to still use the normal recruiters, but that's not where we get our people. We get them from LinkedIn a lot of times, and that's on her list. So I would still rather pursue what is outlined here first, knowing that if it doesn't work, we can go to plan B quickly. But I think we'll get a lot of qualified resumes from doing what Vanessa's proposing here, including the MMA website, which Mark says only has one other town looking for a similar person, which is Chatham, which I don't, Chatham's a long way away from us. So I'd rather save the fee. So I don't know how they do this in municipal finance, but in the private sector, it's 30% of the first year's salary. So it's a chunk of money. Given budget constraints, et cetera, I'd rather stick with what Vanessa is proposing, at least initially. I don't have a problem with Mark or Sam or someone calling Bernie and just having a conversation with him and seeing what he says. But I'd rather not go the formal recruiting route yet. Chelsea, I'm going to come back to you because my guess is you're going to want to weigh in here on this too, given where this conversation has gone. So I would not vote for a recruiter right off the bat. I vote for what's being proposed here first, knowing that if this doesn't work quickly, as far as getting some good resumes, then we can always go to plan B. Okay, Chelsea, now I'll go back, assuming you want to probably add to this.
The only thing I would add to what you said, Kathy, is I think that if we used a recruiter right now, it would just add more time. And I think if we can fill this faster, we'll be better off, assuming that we get the candidate that we're looking for. So I would go with your plan with the backup plan.
A follow-up question, Sam. So our fire chief, you said he was recruited through a paid recruiter or?
Nope, informal network. He was not looking, and someone who he knew and respected approached him and said, "This job is out there, are you interested?"
Okay.
And that was round 2 of when you put it back out with a different salary range.
That's when he was identified. I don't know what communication had gone on before that. I was not directly involved in that conversation.
And I realize I left one person off that committee, which is the Marlborough Fire Chief.
Right.
Sorry. So Andrew, any different thoughts after hearing Sam as far as, so it sounds like we agree on, well, the big thing is what we're talking about. Do we use the panel that Mark would put together or do we go the outside recruiter route?
I tend to agree with you, Kathy, after hearing the different points of, I just think we gotta start to make progress on this, and we're gonna have a busy rest of the year, and this should be a priority in starting to move it forward. And, so I am in favor of the process that's outlined in Vanessa's memo to us.
So I will, just one other comment, Madam Chair. I will give a nod, to what Sam is saying, is that, I appreciate, I think, to get moving to start as proposed by Ms. Hale, but, if we're not seeing what we expect to see, we're not going to wait to pivot, and may come back to this board relatively quickly. That, I've had a couple of conversations with, whether it's Mr. Lynch or somebody else in that, and that I think that we really could, see if they could help us to beat the bushes, so to speak, to get some additional candidates in here. So we may have to pivot, but I think that I think this initial process, is a good place to start.
So Sam, how about this? How about we vote to support what's proposed here with an instruction to Mr. Purple to, as soon as he sees things not going well, as far as this process goes, that we're not getting good resumes, that we do quickly re-adjourn and possibly go to plan B, which is hiring the formal recruiter.
I'm fine with that. I mean, I don't feel, horribly strongly about it. I just think that, if I were doing it, that's the way I do it. But clearly the will of the group is to go forward as proposed. I'm fine. Thanks.
But we respect your proposal too. We know that you think that Bernie has a lot of feelers out in the state. And so we understand that too. Okay, so I will make a motion to approve the process that is outlined on the first page of our packet from Vanessa Hell, dated October 24th, as written.
So moved.
Second? Okay, so we're on Zoom, so this is roll call vote. So all, let's see, sorry, Chelsea?
Aye.
Andrew?
Aye.
Sam?
Aye.
And I'm aye, so that's 4-0-1. Ms. Bracio's abstaining from this completely.
And Kathy, I think we can simultaneously have, like you suggested, either Mark or Sam, at least have a conversation. And so at least if we have to move quickly, we have maybe a quote already.
Yeah,
I'd suggest
I can
Mark
give, yeah, I can
that.
give Bernie, I'll give Bernie a call tomorrow morning.
And Sam, it sounds like you should have a conversation with Mark too about well, whatever else might be relevant.
I've got a couple of ideas. Yeah. All right, we'll do that. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so that's done. One more thing too before we get off this one. So obviously, even if we go the non-formal recruiter process, there's still a cost, LinkedIn cost. There's some cost in doing this. I assume that we will have a place to deposit the cost of this in the select board budget until we decide where it ultimately belongs. I mean, this very well could be reserved for a transfer. I mean, we certainly didn't expect this for sure.
I mean, the process for police chief, all of the expenses for the process came out of the police budget.
Okay,
So
so DPW for now.
we're going to be doing it out of DPW, and then if we run short, we'll address it.
Okay. All right. Okay, now let's turn to the actual job description, which is summarized on the first page and then detailed on the next few pages. Okay, so Chelsea, can we start with you first?
Sure. So one of my comments that was on the initial summary page and then also in the actual job description, I think it's important that we reference that the employees are union. Or all of them are union, correct, Mark?
No, not all.
Okay.
So I think we need to. So two office staff are SAP.
Okay, are not. Okay, so I just think that we need to call out because we want them to be able to do contract negotiations, right, as part of their job.
So you can say majority are union employees.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think that's an important part, that not maybe all DPW departments are union. And so I just want to make sure
You
that
mentioned both union and non-union employees, just to reinforce.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, the culture of DPW is union. But I we could break it out 13 union and two non-union. Okay.
My other comment on the first section is on the current salary. So we list what the actual current salary is. And do we want to list a range and caveat it with depending on experience?
So it depends on how you want to do this. This is one of those curious positions that is still listed in the SAP.
Right.
Still has a range.
Right.
But it's a contract position and you're really not bound by a range other than what the board may determine you want to do. And since this is a public meeting, if you really want to establish that now, I'm sure that, people will come back and look at the meeting, to understand what that is. So it's up to you how you'd like to put that in the advertisement. You can list the range as it is in the SAP. That's up to you.
Chelsea, why don't we just want to put salary negotiable? I hate to see that one. First of all, where did the $63 come from? But anyway, I hate to see that number there because it just seems to imply something that I don't think is necessarily written in stone.
So take it out entirely, Kathy, you think?
Yeah, the salary negotiable, commensurate with experience.
I'm okay with that. I just didn't like having the one number in there, I guess.
Okay.
I don't either.
Okay. I'm good with that. And Mark, you actually made me think of something else. So this position actually could, though, be in the SAP and not be a contract.
It could. Position is still listed in the SAP. It's up to you how you want to.
Okay.
You want to do it.
Interesting.
I don't know that it's always been listed in the SAP, but I'm not aware that it was previously not, that it's ever been not a contract.
Okay.
So in the 10 years I've been here, there have been discussions about it's a contract. Why would we have it in both places? But there's been some reluctance, over the years with personnel board that, well, what if it isn't a contract? Then we have to put it someplace. We have to figure out where to put it again and everything in that. So you're correct. You do have that ability.
Okay. That's all for me for now, Kathy. Thank you.
So Mark, are you trying to make note of what we're proposing to change? I hate for you not to participate in this. I've actually got quite a few suggestions. I'm not sure what the rest of the board thinks, but I'd rather you listen and comment than have to be our scrivener. So since it's recorded, I don't think you should feel obligated to be making notes, because I'd much rather you be able to give your substantive comments on this.
Yeah, no, I'm making some notes here and everything, I'm not, and again, I'm trying to get the gist of what we're looking to do. And then I'm going to have to figure out how to phrase it and have you be okay with that.
Okay. All right. Andrew.
So you're talking about the salary points?
No, we're talking about the whole thing. So Chelsea's looked at the whole, she's done with her job description proposed edits. So, if you don't agree with what we just said, which is basically get the 120.63 out of there and just say salary commensurate with experience.
No, I agree with that. I agree with that.
Okay, so
and just to be clear, we're not talking the job description right now. We're talking the posting.
That's correct. That's correct.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Just wanted to clarify. Thank you.
Sorry, I kind of consider this one thing. Okay, so go ahead, Andrew. Anything else?
Well, no, I thought that Chelsea made a very good suggestion on the job description, that there's reference to negotiating contracts, but not, I would say, participating in collective bargaining agreement negotiations. Would that be the right way to phrase it? That is one of the expected duties of the position.
Yeah, I think that, and again, the thing that you want to try to balance is, I don't want to basically cut and paste the entire job description into the ad, right? Which is why at some point we have to simply put, and it's almost near the end of the second paragraph, a full job description is available on the town's website. So I think you want to pull out the salient pieces, because again, in the job description under essential functions, it talks about overseas management of department personnel administration, labor relations. So it is called out in there. It's just a matter of, is it important enough or something that you want to make sure, you identify here. What's that?
In the job posting as opposed to the job description?
Correct. I think the posting, it's kind of like a cover letter in my mind. It's like, here's what, I want to attract you in with. And if you're interested, you're going to want to go and take a look at the whole thing and understand, what that is. I think we're also going to want to put in probably a copy of the special act so people can understand, the authority granted through that as well.
Okay. So with that in mind, I think that's fine to have the reference to labor relations and collective bargaining agreement in the job description as well. And you're saying it's covered somewhere here. I can look for it and find it.
It is page 2, essential functions. It is in the second paragraph, the third paragraph of that actually starts with overseas management of.
Okay. Yep. Okay. So you want me just to only speak now to the job posting, not the job description?
No, Chelsea, did you only do the job posting and not the job description also?
I just had one on the job description.
Okay, all right. So then we'll come back to you on. So let's just do the job posting then. So Andrew, are you done?
I'm fine. Yeah, I'm done.
Sorry, I thought you were contemplating. Sam.
Yeah, I'm okay on the job posting. I've got some comments on the job description.
Okay. So I've got some comments here, but I'm going to eliminate some of them. I'm being really picky. Okay, so do we want to call it Public Works Department or Department of Public Works? And I know I'm being picky, but it is technically Department of Public Works, correct? And I say that because on the job description, you've got both. One time you got Public Works Department, the other time you got Department of Public Works. So I just changed it to, if I'm right, the Department of Public Works on the third line. Everybody agrees. Then on the fourth line, where it's talking about all the various areas that this person's got to focus on, after, well, we can say trees, but we know we mean public shade trees, right? So you might want to put that there. If everybody's okay with trees, I'm okay with it. And then highway, I would put all town roads and not just highway, because they focus on a lot of town roads that aren't highways. I initially thought we didn't focus enough on the fact that she really has, two different budgets to oversee: the Water Enterprise Fund and everything else, right? But then later on the job description, we do talk about water. It's still not clear we've got a separate Water Enterprise Fund, but I'm not sure that matters, at least for now. But of course, once we get into this, we should make sure that the candidates that get through the process understand that piece of. So I'm okay. That's fine. So now,
I'm sorry, Kathy, just to interrupt. I think that's a good point. The fact that it is a water enterprise fund, I think someone should understand. Chelsea's shaking her head too. I think it's important they understand that is a good thing, and I probably would try to find a way to break that out.
I would the third paragraph under essential functions. This is actually one of my comments. It put in parentheses after division budgets, put operational budget and water enterprise fund.
Oh, I mean in the ad.
Posting.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I'm talking about the posting. I'm thinking that
Got it
is probably important enough that it should be broken out to people to understand that we have a separate water enterprise fund.
Well, in the actual description, we're going to see where we ask this person very broadly to understand all aspects of municipal finance. And I said all applicable aspects of, because I don't expect the DPW superintendent to understand everything there is to know about municipal finance. I want them to understand enterprise fund, though, it all relies there, and they've got to make it work within that fund. There's nothing else to fall back on. So when we get over there, we can kind of tweak that a little bit to make sure that's clear. But yeah.
But Kathy, in the posting, we could put, it says water, comma, and we could add water enterprise fund, comma, and keep on going.
Okay.
Yeah, either that, Sam, or I would pull water out completely and make it a separate sentence. Is that the town has a separate water enterprise fund.
Or why don't you do the DPW has an FY23 operating budget of X and water enterprise fund and do the budget for that.
And that's what I added to, Chelsea. I said we got it. If we're going to put that budget, we put the other budget in there too.
Okay.
Yeah. And then have a separate so your total staff of 15 is just on your operating budget, not your water budget, right?
No, your staff of 15 is everybody.
So then you can break out your staff for operations and water.
Okay. I think what I would ask after we're done here and we all agree to agree is that the board assign somebody that can work with me like tomorrow morning, first thing, and just kind of check me that we're changing all these things and we're making everything in that. So at least I've got a board member that says, yep, that's what we did last night. This sounds, this is consistent with what we talked about. So when we're all done, I would just ask if the board would be willing to do that, just to kind of, belt and suspenders.
So don't let me forget
offers the most changes should volunteer.
Or the least, the least amount of changes.
I can't do it, so.
Yeah, the least amount of changes because they don't have that biggest of investments. So.
Yeah. Okay, so the other substantive comment, this is a substantive comment. On second paragraph, it wasn't clear to me if we're asking someone to have 7 to 10 years total experience with the 5 as managerial within that 7 to 10, or do we want 7 to 10 plus another 5 as managerial? It may be obvious to you guys, but it wasn't obvious to me whether we want somebody with 12 to 15 or is it 7 to 10?
I thought it was included in the 7 to 10 myself. You might put at least on both of those.
Okay, if everybody thinks it reads like that, then I'm fine. I just didn't, it wasn't clear to me.
Maybe put including 5 years.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, I took it as, and Mark, do you know if the intent was total 7 to 10?
I think the total is 7 to 10. You want to see someone who's progressively, you know, maybe they spent a couple of years, you know, as a water superintendent, and then they started to move up in that. But, you know, over the course of that experience, they're going to have, you know, they are going to, by default, have some management and supervisor experience. They absolutely have to if they're applying for this position.
But Chelsea's got the right idea. If after at least 7 to 10 years,
The word including.
yeah, and then parentheses, including 5 years of managerial experience would work. I think that would make it clearer.
Okay.
Clear.
Yep.
Okay, and this is last one. I just don't understand why we add this. Maybe it's fine, but the very last sentence where we're doing our equal opportunity employer paragraph, why is veteran there? I've never seen veteran in a paragraph like that.
Yeah, veteran is something that you usually see in there.
Okay, fine. I just never seen it before. Okay, so that's it for the actual posting. Everybody agree? Okay, now let's go to the actual detailed job description. So, sorry, Chelsea, if you don't want me to start with you every time, I won't. I just do it by how I see.
No, it's fine.
Who I've called on. Go ahead.
So same comment as above related to calling out the union versus non-union employees. And then, sorry, back to the paragraph under essential functions, the third paragraph there. I do think that we need to break out between operational and enterprise. The other question that I had that I didn't see in here was any intermunicipal agreements with like Ashland and managing any of those, unless I missed it, Mark.
I don't think there's anything in here that specifically mentions an IMA or discusses that specifically. There may be some things that make a box that it would fit into, but it is something I think that you could probably trying to think of where you'd want to put it. If you're looking to put it specifically, or you're looking to put it like a kind of a broad statement, because there is no specificity of Ashland.
Right. That was just my example.
Okay.
I would keep it broad, just so that we cover anything that could come up.
Yeah, I think one of the things that, again, this is the job description, and I'm trying to figure out, I'd rather not get into essential functions, but I'm looking actually on the first page in terms of supervision, job environment, and putting something in here. And maybe I'm jumping Sam's comment, you know, when you get there, but, you know, we are an MWRA community for water. And, you know, and at least, you know, maybe putting in a couple of sentences that acknowledges that piece, and also, you know, discusses, you know, that, you know, we do provide, you know, an indirect connection to the MWRA for at least one neighboring community, something along those lines. I don't know that you want specificity, but that at least puts it out there.
Okay.
Does that kind of get where you were trying to go?
Yeah. Does everybody else agree to put something like that in there? Okay. Yes, that sounds good, Mark.
You got two nods, Andrew.
Where would you be putting it in the job description?
I'm going to try and put it someplace. You know, I'm a little torn. You know, someplace into I don't know. I know what I want to say. I'm just trying to think of where it may fit, and maybe it falls into essential functions. Because the more I look at this, I'm doing this off the cuff. So the more I look at this, I'm not sure that supervision is where it belongs. I don't think a statement of duties, you want that level of specificity. Job environment is more of is more environment and less the particulars. Maybe it is something that goes into essential functions, and a paragraph goes in about, you know, that we are an MWRA community and puts it in there.
I don't have a preference on where it goes, if that helps.
Well, no.
I mean, I think I'm okay if you want to think about it.
Yeah, I think you know, looking at this quickly and trying to figure out where it may or may not go, I really think it's going to end up in essential functions. I think that's really going to be the logical place. But okay. But I think it is, I agree with the change. I think it's important.
Okay. My next one was on the job environment, second paragraph, where you list the contact with public requiring perceptiveness and discretion with other town officials, et cetera, et cetera. Do we want to add in other department heads there? I didn't see anything about other department heads in the job description.
Do you want to put department heads, or do you want to put other departments?
Or other departments is fine.
Okay.
Can I jump into this one too, since we're on this sentence? I agree with what Chelsea said, but I don't like the way this sentence is written. I would suggest, instead of what's written there, to say the following: interfaces with the public requiring interpersonal skills, period. Then say also frequently communicates with including the department heads. I just don't like what that first sentence says, with the public requiring perceptiveness and discretion. I'd just rather say interpersonal skills, which includes a lot of stuff.
I'm good with that.
All right, someone's gonna have to send that one to me. And I will tell you, yeah, and I will tell you that a lot of this language, in terms of, you know, the supervision, job environment, a lot of this is boilerplate that you see in a lot of our other job descriptions. I have no problem changing it. It's just that this is really to try to maintain some level of consistency. This is what we have in a lot of them. So if you don't like the wording here, you're not going to like it in 40 other places. So.
Okay.
And my final comment is a question on that same paragraph, second to last sentence. Contact is in person, in writing, via telephone, radio, and email. Is radio like employees talking to each other over the radio, or are we actually talking about the radio?
Employees talking over okay. Portables.
Portables.
Right.
Can we say portable radios?
We can say, well, yes.
Okay.
We can say portable radios. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, portable radios for people of a certain age, maybe like a transistor radio, but I think portable radios is fine.
Okay. All right. That's all I had. Thanks, Kath.
Andrew.
Okay, so we're now on the job description, right?
We are.
The job posting. Under essential functions, where it says access spokesperson for the town and project manager on public works projects, and responds to media questions and inquiries on public works projects, I would suggest adding another sentence after that that says communicates proactively with community members and stakeholders regarding public works projects and initiatives. And I can type that out and send that. And on the paragraph that begins, reviews all major engineering, comma, design / specifications, etc. I think it should say between the word department and technical support, it should say provides technical support to planning and conservation departments.
Say that one more time, Andrew.
Okay.
I'm on the paragraph.
So I think
in the second sentence of that, Andrew, I'm just going to try and help, and if I'm wrong, then I'll stop. But in that paragraph, reviews all major engineering, in the second sentence, the second line that begins department and, right after and, I believe that he wants to insert the word provides technical support, you know, and I think that's the only
that's
change.
fine. Oh, that's fine. I was down on others. That's fine.
Yep.
I think everybody okay with that one.
And that ties into the second to last sentence after the semicolon, provides technical assistance to all other town departments and committees as required. So it's the specificity for the planning and permitting pieces, but then also does provide that same level of service to other departments as required.
Okay.
that's it.
That's it for you, Andrew? Sam?
I had a conceptual question. Why did we get two versions of this? We had in the packet, there was a version that looked to me like to be the old version somehow, and then the new looked like a red line, but it really wasn't a red line.
So conceptually, the red line version is the old version with some updates to it, and the other version is simply just a clean version without you seeing the tract.
So the clean version, which was right behind the job posting, is the one that is proposed as the one that is posted?
Correct.
Okay. Well, I like the other one better generally, but that's okay.
Yeah, the other one has not been updated in a long time. Like
the red line one,
years.
though, I thought had some good changes in it.
That's why the radio is in there.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, the only substantive change that I had is that is the licensed professional engineer in the draft now as a requirement, or not? I think that's important to be in there.
As preferred.
I would not put preferred. I'd put it at worst. I'd put strongly preferred. I'd rather have it as a requirement, actually. And the other major change.
Pretty important. So let's see what everybody thinks about that. That's a pretty substantive change here. So Sam, if you had your druthers, you'd say required.
I just listed as required. Yeah.
Chelsea.
I'd say strongly preferred.
Andrew.
So, I mean, this also is also relevant to the job posting because there's the catch-all phrase in the job posting, or an equivalent combination of similar education experience. I think that's a good suggestion. Strongly preferred. I think that if this works out well, you know, we're going to get applicants that have the PE, and I don't think. I'll just leave it there. I think that strongly preferred is a good suggestion.
I mean, I can live with that, but I would observe that a large portion of the DPW superintendents in the greater metro area are PEs. I think that's important.
What's a large proportion? Do you know?
I don't have a number, but
I guess
2/3 at least.
So would someone who was a PE would be deterred from applying if it said that this was only strongly preferred as opposed to required?
I don't think so.
I don't think they would be.
I don't think they'd be deterred. But
just generally, I like to have some of that room for later maneuvering, but
Okay.
I think we're all on the same page. That's what we like to see.
Yeah, I
Strongly
just
close.
want to correct, I'm sorry, I just want to correct one thing now that I'm sitting here looking at everything in that, because Ms. Hale had put this together. The red line version is the updated version. The version that I've been marking up is the old version. So when Mr. Stiver says he likes the other one better, there's a reason he likes the other one better. So
Okay.
I apologize for the confusion.
But the red line version actually shows PE required.
It has recommended minimum qualifications.
But it says CDL and licensed professional engineer.
Correct.
In Massachusetts.
Yes,
So
it
we're
does.
changing that.
Yes.
Okay.
So it's up to you whether you want to leave it under there with everything else as recommended minimum qualifications, or whether you want to put strongly preferred after that.
And I think the will of the group seems to be strongly preferred after it. So
I'm on I'm in that camp too, strongly preferred.
okay. Again,
Now,
So Mark, just to be clear, is the document we're looking at, maybe not you, but the four of us, is the clean version, right? It's not the old version. It's the current proposed
Clean version that you have is actually the old version.
that's what I thought.
Yeah, no, and that's why I just apologized. So the clean version is the old version that really hasn't been touched for 20 years. And the newer version that has been updated with the changes, with the track changes, is the proposed newer version, but wanted you to see the changes.
And that really isn't a track change version. That's a PDF version that I had a hard time converting to redline version to edit. So next time, ask Vanessa to send out a real redline, please. It'd be a lot easier to work with.
Okay.
Okay. Go ahead.
My only other substantive change is to spell our name right in the header.
I agree. Spell Southborough correctly. Spell it out.
Partner level comment.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, we don't want the new person to start off thinking that's how you spell Southborough.
That's right.
And
no,
then also,
I hate that they can't spell it correctly on the state signs either.
Yep. So make it, spell it out, and then
saving money.
You've got Board of Selectmen in here a couple places too. So get that here and make it Select Board.
Yep.
Okay, so just to be clear, we're still going to work tonight on the old version that's in front of us. Okay, that's what we're doing.
Okay, but I still like a lot of the changes in the new one.
Okay, well, let's get them in there then. But
sorry, so we're not going. I was looking at the red line version. We're not looking at that one.
I wasn't looking at that one. I was looking at what I thought was the clean version of the red. So I didn't compare the two. I just thought that that was the red line version, and then the clean version was the clean version of the red line. So I didn't compare the two.
It's not. Yeah. So we're working. So and that's again why I apologize, because if we are working from the clean version is 20 years old.
And I was having trouble making a comparison between the clean and the red line. I'm not sure that's the actual red line of it, but I defer to higher talent on that one. So anyway, red line is what I like better with a couple changes.
So Chelsea, you've read the red line?
Yeah, because it said Select Board. That's so
okay,
I just assumed it was.
I wouldn't like you not to say that, so I thought, well, okay. So all right. So you've read the red line.
Yep.
Have you read the red line?
I just focused on the red line. I assume that was the operative.
Okay. Well, 3 out of the 4 of us, I focused on the non-red line. Okay. So we can still keep going. So you guys make your comments on the red line. I will still make my comments on the first one if they're relevant. You can say it's not relevant. It's out of the red line. And I don't have a whole lot either besides what we've already talked about. Okay, now where were we? So Andrew, you finished as far as the red line version?
Yeah, but I just have one comment now that goes back to the job posting. Sorry, now that the discussion focused on strongly preferred licensed professional engineer. The job posting, don't think says that, just says applicant shall possess a Bachelor of Science degree in civil engineering or related field. Do we want to say in the job posting as well?
We can put in that, a certification as a licensed professional engineer in Massachusetts is strongly preferred.
I think you should for sure.
I think it's worth that. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Good point.
So then
Okay.
you're going to reword special requirements then in the, or are you going to leave it at like that on the recommended minimum qualifications on the job description?
Well, it's already in special requirements, isn't it?
I know, but do you want to leave it as special requirements or do you want to rename it to be consistent?
Well, I thought we were simply going to put strongly preferred after the PE to kind of call out just that piece.
Okay, that's fine.
So leave it under special requirements and just add the word special in front of preferred, correct?
Strongly preferred.
Sorry, strongly preferred in front of preferred.
Okay. And also at the end of the knowledge section, or on the bottom of the first page, you just have intermediate spelled wrong.
Right.
Yep.
Sam, anything else?
No, not worth talking about. So let's keep going.
That's kind of weird. Okay, so Mark, you and I are looking at the same document. So look at this with me and let's figure out in the red line. So on the first page under supervision, first paragraph, last sentence, I don't know what OWN means. It says long range plans and objectives previously, semicolon, own performance standards. Maybe that's already been fixed in the red line.
Nope.
Okay.
No, I think I think it's probably a clunky way of saying that you're responsible, for, performance standards, for setting, maintaining, and you're responsible for performance standards and then direct responsibility for, performance results. So, when you tell somebody that you have to own it, that's the intent, but I agree it's somewhat clunky.
Okay, so say setting performance standards in, because that really makes it clear. I really thought you left out a T for town. I was really trying to figure out what on earth that word there meant. So it wasn't clear.
Yep. Okay.
That what it meant. Okay, so that's one silly comment. Now, again, this paragraph might be going the red line. If you go to the next page, so first paragraph at the top of the page, so it's under the category called job environment. It's the last paragraph of that. I hate that paragraph. I wish it weren't in there. Maybe it's already gone. It says error. It talks about errors and this and that. I just don't think that belongs in a job description. I've never seen anything quite like that in a job description.
Mm-hmm. It's sort of an editorial comment. I could live without it, certainly.
I agree. Take it out.
It's very negative.
Sure, it is.
That gets them ready for feedback on the job from the public.
Well, okay, but we want to start off positive, right?
We don't advertise.
Right. Okay, we'll take that out.
Okay, let's see. Okay, that's all I've got, other than one really other picky one, because I think the word means two different things. Go to the very last. Is physical requirement still in the red line? The very last paragraph?
Yep.
Okay, so fourth sentence from the bottom, it starts off with the employee is frequently required to sit, talk, and it says here. The word should be listen. Listen is not the same thing as hear. So you want people to truly listen to employees. Let's see. You want them to require to sit, talk, and listen to employees. Oh, no, it's okay.
That's not a physical requirement. That's a skills requirement, but physically, you don't want someone who's deaf, basically, is what we're saying here.
Wow. Well, I'm not sure that's what's saying.
Yeah.
Listen to what people say, truly listen, comprehend, not let it go in one ear and out the other. You can hear, but not listen.
But that's true, but I think that belongs somewhere else.
Well, that could be true too, but wherever it is, I want to say listen and not hear.
Okay. But that's, again, physical, you hear physically, mechanical process, which these other things get to.
I'm okay taking it out except for the 30-pound piece, because that is physical. Again, assuming that's in the red line. They've got to lift 30 pounds.
Yeah.
I'm okay if you want to take that piece of it, because that really is not that you're really trying to talk about, physically what they have to do.
Looking in the red line version, you would like to, the fourth line from the bottom, last paragraph, the sentence beginning the employee. So essentially you could take everything out from is frequently all the way through the next where employee starts again. So that sentence would now just simply be the employee may be occasionally required to.
Yeah, to lift up to 30 pounds.
Okay.
That's fine.
Okay. Yep.
Anybody have an issue with that?
No.
Okay. All right, I'm done.
You got rid of the listen part then, so I think we're okay.
Yes, I got rid of it. I got rid of the here part.
Yep.
Okay, so any other comments before we decide who's going to volunteer to sit down with Mark and Vanessa tomorrow morning? All right, so
don't all speak at once.
That's right. Okay, so let's see. Does anyone have time to do this? Let's ask that question first. Tomorrow morning. I do not.
I do, just later in the morning.
Okay, so you could get there in the morning sometime.
Like before noon.
Okay, so that's good enough, probably. Right. Mark, does that work with your schedule?
Yeah, that does. Like I said, I'm going to probably have something done. If in fact it is Miss Malinowski, I'll have something done to look at. It's not like I'm going to wait to, then we can do this together. I'm going to have it all pretty much set. I'm just going to need someone to check. Yep.
Okay.
I'm fine with that.
Sam and Andrew, it sounds like you're off the hook.
Yeah, I mean, I could, but I don't think I'm representative of the group on this stuff. So I will defer to.
Tomorrow morning would not really work for me.
So, and I'm happy to basically say whatever Chelsea ends up approving here is what we go with.
Me too.
Andrew?
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So we can get this out quickly. All right. Okay, so why don't we make this official? And I'll make a motion to approve the job description that we have discussed tonight as amended. Okay. And
the job posting and sorry to interrupt, the job posting and job description, right?
Yes, job description and job posting, as we discussed tonight, and amended, and agreed that will be reviewed by Ms. Malinowski tomorrow with Mr. Purple and finalized between the two of them.
I'll second motion.
All right, so roll call vote. Chelsea?
Aye.
Andrew?
Aye.
Sam?
Aye.
And Cook is aye. So 4-0-1 again to approve that. Okay, so I think we're done with that one.
Would you like me to text Miss Braccio to have her come back?
Yes.
Okay.
I felt like we were definitely missing a piece with her not being here. There she is.
She is.
Welcome back, Lisa. So for the record, Ms. Braccio has returned to our meeting. Okay, so the next thing on the agenda is to talk about a way to keep the public informed contemporaneously with the work we're doing on attempting to decide whether we will approve a connection with Hopkinton through us to the MWRA water system. So I'll start this one off as far as at least one way to do it, and then see if you guys can tinker around this or propose something different. We could certainly add a page to the town website under the DPW page that has nothing but Hopkinton on it, so it's devoted to Hopkinton. We put all of the documents that we have generated so far, which would include PAR's original study, would include John Butler's work with Karen. And then in addition, include all of the emails we're getting back and forth as far as questions from residents, et cetera, have that kind of in a separate folder so people can read those, see what our responses are, et cetera. So that pretty much everything that we have talked about is all right there in one place for someone to refer to if they so choose.
That's a good start. And Kathy, would you include the PAR thing that was part of the original Hopkinton presentation to us? I think that's very useful.
And that's where I'd start. I mean, that was, the first thing that we did on June 14th. And then the next thing I would say is Mr. Butler's work with Karen that we heard on September 20th as far as studies and data, et cetera. And then the emails that we've received so far, we've got a few. We've got the one from Ms. Houlihan that both I responded to, I think Sam, you responded to her, and Mr. Butler responded to her. So that's kind of a interesting thread. So just put it all there so that people can read what has been said to us and what we have said back.
And I'd also include a link to the YouTube videos of the meetings that this was discussed at, particularly, again, the initial Hopkinton one and then subsequent PAR conversation.
All right, good idea. Good idea. All right, so I'm going to reverse order this time. So Lisa, Chelsea has started every single discussion night, so she's probably wanting to not necessarily start everyone. So I'll start with you. Do you agree that this is something we should do? And if you do, what do you think about the proposed mechanism for doing it?
I think it's definitely the right direction to go, Kathy, to be able to have everything in one place. The only other thing I would suggest is, I know there's been a lot of conversation about this. I would suggest that potentially during this time, as this is getting set up as well, that John do the same presentation that he gave to us, to the Public Works Planning Board in Capitol in a joint meeting. So the public could then attend that as well. And, that could bring additional feedback and outreach as well. So that's just another suggestion to try to get the public engaged in this. So that's one of the main suggestions I had. But I think the DPW is a great start, Kathy.
Okay, so on November 1st, so Mark, just so you know, I haven't looked at the detail of 11.1.15, how you split things up as the proposed agendas, but I'm assuming that Hopkinton's on 11.1. So that meeting, the intention was to basically, again, talk about next steps. So what one of those steps can be, Lisa, is to then ask John to meet with PWPB and Capitol jointly quickly and do that same presentation. Okay.
Great, Kathy. Thank you.
All right. Okay, Sam.
Thanks. Again, I think that's a great step. The other thing I might consider adding is there is a fair amount of misinformation out there about this. I've gotten questions from people. One of the big ones is, my God, we're running out of water. There's not enough water. People are going to have dry faucets in Southborough if we do this, which is absolutely not true. And I think dealing with some of that stuff, in other words, water pressure will go to zero. We got a question about that if we let Hopkinton take a big tap off of our system. I think it would be useful to think about a set of frequently asked questions, FAQs, to say, here are questions that have been asked, here's the answer as far as we know at this point, and have that repository grow over time as other questions come up. So folks have a way to get those kind of questions answered before the rumor mill starts and people spread misinformation about it. I think it's a complex process, but it's clouded even more by just wild worries about things that are not likely to happen relative to it. So
I think that's a great idea. We'll have to figure out who's going to answer, figure out what the questions are that popped up that should be on there, and then who's going to answer those. But I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Everybody
So
agree, Lisa?
directionally, and answers are for people, you know, have the expertise in particular areas. That will vary. All of us will be involved in that some, I think.
And I don't, and I'm sorry, not to single out one particular email, but I think the email that was sent to us by Miss Wittes has a lot of those questions that seem to hit to the heart of some of those things. And we could begin to use that as a little bit of a template on some of the questions to begin to address.
Right. And there will be more, but it's a good start. So
yeah, right.
All right. And one thing I'm not sure is totally appreciated, and we might want to emphasize this on November 1st, is that we've already done this once with Ashland. It's a little bit different, you know, it's limited, but we have done it. So this is not the first time we've done this, and it's been, we think, successful so far. So we ought to make sure that everybody realizes this is not the first time we've done this. Lexington has done the same thing that we're proposing to do. They provide all the water for Bedford and some of the water for Burlington. So there's another example of state of what we would end up with Ashland and Hopkinton. Okay, so Andrew, what do you think about the plan to try to publicize everything to do with this project on the DPW webpage?
I think that's a good idea. I know that just you have the agenda item here is kind of very limited as about the process of publicizing it, but
that is it. Yeah. Okay,
but you know, just some part of the context here is that so far, really, the biggest piece of information out there so far were the presentation that the PAR study, right, that was presented to us in the summer, the PowerPoint and the presentation that the town of Hopkinton made, which is a sketch of possible terms, things that they would be looking for and be willing to offer. And then there's Mr. Butler's PowerPoint presentation analyzing the issue. But the next way the thing has to move forward in a way that would really produce something tangible for other boards to really analyze and give suggestions on is to start to get some type of a negotiation going with the town of Hopkinton to actually get some proposed terms. And then I just think that the discussion needs to move along a little bit further before it gets to the point where it's really tangible enough to have some more informed comment and feedback from it. A lot of the questions, like the FAQ questions, Sam, a lot of these are going to be just very general in nature so far, right? Do you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. But Andrew, I think that we could actually create FAQ questions that you're suggesting here to say, you know, where are we in the process? What are the next steps, et cetera? And so to lay out the process as part of that question set for people. And when can we expect updates and sort of a timeline maybe there to set expectations for when more detail will be available.
Because I was definitely struck by, you know, people's concern that for the last time, like we were going to enter an executive session and come out, you know, after that with some fully formed agreement. We're not even close to that, right? I feel like the ball is in our court to tell the town of Hopkinton. I mean, there was a consensus that we were interested in exploring this opportunity. The ball is in our court to come forward with at least a first offer, to then have them come back with another offer. And I feel like the most productive way of doing that is in an executive session. That way we can kind of candidly talk about negotiating strategy, et cetera. But there are certainly, we're still pretty far away from a point where there's something kind of tangible that can be really critiqued, et cetera. The discussion that other boards will be having until there's really more draft agreements is, I mean, the other boards may be able to come to us with suggestions on things that we would include in terms that we would propose to the town of Hopkinton. But I just don't want to lose sight of the fact that, you know, the ball is in our court to begin this process, and I think it should move forward fairly soon.
Okay. Okay, so you're fine with the proposal as far as how to publicize this?
Yes.
Okay, Chelsea?
So I think to kind of piggyback off where Andrew was going, and I'm going to try to stay within the agenda item on publicizing this. I think we need to almost split this into two different paths. I mean, we're the chief executors of the town, right? So negotiation is under our purview. And then the other side of that is publicizing the project, vetting it, getting public input. And I don't necessarily care who does it, but I think it makes sense for a board or committee to own that piece of it. We all watch multiple meetings every week. I think we can keep up with the feedback that's coming, utilize that in our path of negotiation. And you know, I think it's in everybody's best interests where we have the asset that we protect the residents and the asset, right? And that's the purpose of going into executive session, so that we can protect that. But I do think it's very important that we, you know, with a big project like this, that we do have the public aware. I think it's great to have a page on the DPW website to have all that information available. And I also think maybe as part of the FAQ, Sam, it includes what's talked about in public and what isn't. And the way to get information, or if you have a concern, funnel that through, you know, if we choose a board or committee to take that route. But I do think that we need to be clear on what will be handled in public versus what will not. And that way there's no confusion on the intent of the board or how information is getting disseminated to the public.
Okay, that's it?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I propose this. Obviously, I'm fine with the DPW using that page to truly try to keep everybody posted. I would also want to link on the town main webpage to it. So you go right to it, you see, you can go there if you just want to jump, so that people don't have to go to the DPW page to know that it's there. So I would say that too as a little tinker here. But to go back to Andrew and some of Chelsea's, it is our purview to negotiate this type of contract, and it is a contract. And you can't do that totally in public. You take public feedback, you take input, et cetera, but it's still our job to sit down and put together what we think is a reasonable offer to Hopkinton to do this, that protects our interests, that is a good, solid contract for us. We don't even know that they're going to accept it. So you got to do that. Then you've got to talk to Hopkinton also privately and get their feedback and come back and see if we can even get a deal done. There may be no deal to be done here. We may think that what we're asking for, they can't agree to. I don't know. But you can't negotiate the contract in public. You just can't do that. Ashland wasn't done that way. So I think we spend November 1st figuring all this out, including asking John to work with PWPB and Capital to have a presentation to them separately. But we've got to decide on November 1st what our next steps are. And it will include an executive session. It has to move forward here. So that's my take. And again, we didn't really say this on the agenda as far as doing this, but so we said what we're going to say. So let's not go any further with that piece of it. We will flush it all out on November 1st, and then hopefully move forward fairly quickly, because if this needs to come in front of town meeting, then we need to keep moving to make sure it's all done properly, and everybody's informed, and we've had time to get all the feedback once a deal is possible, to show it to the public and get that feedback. So I think we all know what we want to get done here and how to get it done. And we certainly want the public to be involved in posted, but there is a piece of this that's got to be done in executive session.
I think, can I make one final suggestion?
Absolutely.
On the facts page, you brought up Lexington. and how that was done successfully. Maybe on our FAQ page, we have a link to something, so, you know, the public can go and, you know, see that this was done successfully, that this isn't something new and we're not reinventing a wheel. So that's just a suggestion. Thank you.
Good idea. So I've added 3 things. I said we'll add the link to the YouTube of the meetings, add an FAQ, and then add the info on Lexington so they can see that we're not paving new ground here. Okay.
Mr. Butler has his hand up.
Ew. I didn't see that. Okay. So is it Katie? Katie, can you bring over Mr. Butler? Hello.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, so just because some statements.
Okay, now we can't, John. Okay, come back.
Okay, now I'll try it again.
Okay.
Is that better now?
Yes.
Okay, so there's a document that I generated in conjunction working, you know, all of my work has been tightly intertwined with working with Ms. Galligan through the whole period. We've met weekly on this work. There is a piece of work that I sent to the board, to your board, you know, a couple of weeks ago now, that I just think you should be clear about whether you want to include that as a linked document in the web page, because at the end of the September 20th meeting, you'll recall that the decision was taken by your board that we should try to draft that because a contract would be critical to a successful and non-contentious business arrangement with Hopkinton, that we should try to draft text that would be a basis for a working relationship going forward. And that constituted both some LOI material as first draft, obviously not yet considered by your board, as well as a way to calculate costs so that we could demonstrate to ourselves, you might say, that we could succeed in passing all the costs through to Hopkinton. So those documents were sent to you, and I guess the question is now, on one hand, I would say that materials that have not yet appeared before executive session and generated by a citizen or even by employees can't really be regarded as executive session material. They have none of your opinions in them about any of those positions. But I do think you should be clear about whether you want those documents to be included on this webpage or not. They serve some purpose in being so, because they do to some extent say to the public, look, you know, this isn't a snap your fingers problem here. There are complex questions that have to be worked through in order to see if it's possible. On the other hand, you might feel as though you want to take it up in executive session, which would then make it confidential, and you'd rather do that as a first step. But I think you should decide now whether you want it there or not.
Okay. Chelsea, I'm going to start with you for a reason, not because I see you first, but if you recall, I believe it was your suggestion that we do the executive session to discuss the proposed documents, John's documents. Mm-hmm. So why don't you start with where your thought process is now as far as releasing those now in public or keeping those in executive session for the moment?
So the rationale for me thinking it should be an executive session was because if the board was going to give its opinion on the documents as presented, then that would be our opinion on what should be negotiated. The documents have not been discussed by the board. As John said, he put it together. So I think it's up to us whether we want them to be. I can see both sides of what John's saying. I think I would rather wait till Tuesday to decide whether they should be on the page, because some of that could be included in a negotiation. However, if we have John speak to Public Works Planning Board and he as a citizen gives his opinion that includes documents on, or pieces of information from that document, then it's a public citizen's input that may go into LOI that we come up with. So I'm not sure.
If I'm still unmuted,
You are.
I completely agree that your board should not discuss that material in public session. I completely agree with Ms. Malinowski on that point. It's your negotiating position with Hopkinton. It does not belong. I mean, at the present stage, however, who knows what your board thinks about those things. But I completely agree that your consideration of that is in the town's best interest to be taken up in executive session. That's my view. I think that's Ms. Malinowski's view as came forward at that time. But since you said put all documents that Karen and I have generated on that website, I just wanted to raise the question about that one.
Well, I didn't mean that one, just to be clear. I was talking about the original presentation on September 20th. That's the doc I was talking about. That
I don't really care. I think I just wanted to remind you that that was in the things that Karen and I generated. And if you need to decide, you want it there or not.
Okay. Andrew.
I agree that the draft term should not be on the website. It should be considered first in executive session.
Sam.
I agree with Andrew. I mean, Chelsea's correct in that we've not discussed it, and technically there's no opinion attached to it. On the other hand, it is, I think, an important input to our thinking, and it could be something that we eventually would want to hold confidential, at least portions of it. So I'd vote not to distribute it at this point.
Lisa.
I agree as well. Obviously, we have the opportunity after we discuss it. And as you said, Sam, there are parts of it that we could potentially release if we wanted to. But I think initially, for the initial conversation, it should be an executive as well.
Mm-hmm.
I totally agree. And just to go back to what Chelsea said also a minute ago, I don't think that this document is one to be discussed with Capital and PWPB. I mean, that defeats the purpose of this. I think the presentation to them is John's presentation on September 20th. Give them the chance to answer questions like we did, have public come in, just like they did with us. We had quite a few public comments that night, and, basically do it again for people who either didn't hear September 20th or wanted, thought about it and have follow-up questions. Okay, so it sounds like we're in agreement that the documents we're talking about, as far as what Mr. Butler has generated, is the initial September 20th PowerPoint.
That's fine.
Okay, all right. Okay, anything else, Mr. Butler?
No, I agree with Mr. Dennington's remarks that to some degree, so first of all, I think that the Public Works Planning Board could take up the subjects that were covered in the September 20th meeting at any time. It's perfectly reasonable for them to do so. And I've made it clear through Ms. Galligan that if they wanted to meet, I would be happy to meet with them at any time. They have a habit of not meeting. And with regard to capital, I also communicated with Jason Malinowski on 2 occasions now, one in early August when this project began for me, and most recently at their recent meeting, and basically said, I'll meet with you at any time if you want to go over this. However, with respect to ordinary considerations by capital planning, you might say the question isn't ripe yet because we just don't know what they can meet. That's fine if they want to, and I'd be happy to present any of the information available for their use. But right now, we just don't know what the capital questions are until your board gets something rolling with Hopkinton. We wouldn't know what to tell them, about here's what you should be looking at for spending. The topics for water that Ms. Malinowski asked that we separate out, that Ms. Galligan and I separate out, the other water projects can go before capital now. They have a plan attached to them, but I'm not involved with that at all. But the Hopkinton piece of it, we just don't know yet whether there's any capital spending to be considered. They could take it up, but usually it's premature for them to take something up that has no money attached to it yet.
Okay, thank you for coming in tonight.
No
Very
problem.
helpful, as always.
Thank you.
Okay, all right, so we've agreed on what we're going to post on the website. So Mark, I'll work with you on that piece of it. All right, so that's it for the regular session. We don't have any public comment tonight. So we are going to enter into executive session per MGL Chapter 38, Section 21, and not return to open session for review of executive session minutes from February 28th, 2022, April 5th, 2022, May 5th, 2022, May 9th, 2022. May 17th, 2022. Then we're also going to do the same thing to review. So we're going to review and approve the executive session minutes from September 30th, 2022 and October 3rd, 2022.
Also move.
Okay, second.
Second.
Okay, roll call vote. Chelsea.
Aye.
Andrew.
Aye.
Sam.
Aye.
Lisa.
Aye.
And Cook is aye. So 5-0 to move into executive session.